I know I said nothing special was going to occur, but this is the 1-year anniversary of these videos. So I wanted to do a tiny little thing at the start for that, so cue the birthday music, add a birthday hat, maybe throw some confetti. So here we go, it's a celebration. And now it's time to talk about why I love Ruiner. Ruiner is part of Devolver Digital's series. You know, along with Absolver and Redeemer. Wait, what? Redeemer isn't published by Devolver? How did I not know that this entire time? Anyway, Ruiner is a top-down twin-stick shooter, and everyone should know how much I love those by now. This game probably has the second most integral story of every game I have talked about thus far, behind Roundabout. You start out on a mission to kill Boss, because you are hacked to do so. Boss is the CEO of a company called Heaven, a company that is propped up by the bodies of the poor. Soon enough, another hacker, her, saves you and tells you that you need to rescue your brother, the bargaining chip that was used to make you kill Boss. You get dropped out in the slums below Heaven, Rancog South, where you start trying to figure out how to save your brother. I don't really want to summarize the entire story, or spoil stuff for anyone who hasn't played, so I think that sets it up pretty well. This game is very cyberpunk, as you get to see the exploitation of people for the benefit of others, and all that technology that isn't really helping anyone. You get the grit and grime of the slums in Rancog South, which kind of functions as your hub, and you get the clean, pristine look of the big business stuff in the art of Heaven. The setting is pretty well realized and fleshed out, if you want to take the time to read all the files. I always like that. There is as much to see as you want to see. Or you can choose to mash through all the story and ignore the database and just play the game. The world you can explore and play through isn't very big, but it is filled with life. There are small side quests to do, most NPCs in the hub will have something new to say after each level, and you can eavesdrop on conversations that tell a story of some random citizens' lives, like these two. Things like this just make the game feel alive, like there was a lot of care and passion put into designing the world. I think the story itself is pretty good and gives you good motivation to keep going by revealing more of how the world works. Plus, I think the characters are great. Her is a fun character, and the star of the show, I feel. She's all over the game, telling you what to do, explaining things, cheering you on, and trash-talking bad guys. There are some pretty great minor characters too, like these two guys who look like they could easily fit into Brigador. Hell, there's a little robot that drops you weapons and health in fights sometimes. Even that has a noticeable personality. I always made sure I talked to every character every chance I got. But enough about the story and the world. How was the actual gameplay? This game was fun from second one for me. The core is pretty simple, twin-stick shooter, you move and shoot. There's much more on top of that, which all works nicely together. You always have a gun, the Ruiner, and a melee weapon. There are more guns and melee weapons to use. These have limited ammo or durability, so you can't have them forever. The weapons you can pick up are, generally, more powerful than your starting kit, or they have some sort of bonus, like lighting enemies on fire or freezing them. But your base gun and melee tool aren't weak. They can take you through the entire game. In fact, when you're locked into an arena to fight a pile of baddies, you might be rewarded for not picking up and using all the weapons that are dropped. Grinders will come down and eat up those weapons and reward you with karma, this game's experience, and possibly an upgraded version of a weapon. This is how much of the game goes. You travel through levels and end up locked in an arena where you have to kill tons of enemies to move on. There are a bunch of bosses to fight throughout the game. These usually introduce a new weapon or skill future enemies might bring to the table. You have more than just your gun and your melee to deal with enemies. You've got a great dash, a shield, and other skills to help you through the fights. This is great, because as you progress you find enemies who also have their own dashes and shields and other powers to use against you. There aren't tons of skills, but you still won't get all of them because the game is fairly short. I'll get to that later. But you can always try out skills in a fight, and if you find you don't like them, you can refund the points and put them into a different skill entirely. Using all these skills in battle works nicely on controller. I can't say as how it feels on a keyboard as I've never played that way. But you get to choose a skill for your left trigger, X button, and the B button if you're using an Xbox controller like I did. There are also Ruiner kills, which you can perform when enemies are near death. These have brutal animations, usually drop some more health or energy for your skills or karma. It always feels satisfying to shoot and or beat enemies. The game gets very messy too. After a long fight, the floor is covered with blood and body parts. It's some sweet mayhem. This game can be a challenge too. I remember when I first played this, I died quite a lot. There is a generous checkpoint system, basically after every fight, and you can even quit the game and come back later to the same checkpoint. But there are multiple difficulties, a new game plus, and a speedrun mode if you want even more challenge. This game also looks and sounds wonderful. The art when talking to a character is just some of my favorite art ever. I do feel a little bit of the style was lost when it transitions to the 3D cutscenes, however, the game still looks good outside the 2D art. Plus, the game has a very cyberpunky red filter over nearly every moment. I know this isn't the case exactly, as there are some very cold blues that contrast the heat of the rest of the game. The game looks dirty in all the ways you want a cyberpunk world to look. They just really aced the look of this game. This game is Smokin' Six style, which is an appropriate reference because this game gives you a rating after combat, although I'm not exactly sure what it's for. Plus, when you get an S+, is it just B, or is her not wearing any pants? The music is also great. Again, it fits the cyberpunk world and matches the aggressive tone of combat very well. I like to listen to the soundtrack outside of the game too. It really gets me pumped up. Now, I said I would get back to the length of the game. It is pretty short. I guess it's about 5 hours long, according to how long to beat. But that seems to fly with how much fun this game is. I like it when a game doesn't overstay its welcome and drag on for needless hours, but this is one of the cases where I feel the game understays its welcome? Is that a phrase? What's the opposite of overstay your welcome? I don't know. Point is, the game doesn't last long enough for me. Earlier this year, the developers added an arena mode, which is great, and where most of this footage is coming from, but that too ends, leaving me wanting more. So, with my only real complaint being that there isn't an unlimited amount of this game to play, I would say that this is a huge recommendation to everyone to play this game. It is fun from start to finish, the controls feel great, on the gamepad I can't speak for the keyboard, the story is interesting, the characters in the world are well developed, and the style, art, sound, and music is stellar. If only it were longer, or had an endless mode or something like that, this game would be 100% perfect to me. I guess it will just have to settle for being like 95% perfect. Oh, and remember, when you think of me, you should think of fire. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please share it around, like it, leave a comment, why not? All that stuff is helpful and very appreciated. We're getting close to the Christmas time for the next video, but I don't really have anything that fits the season, so it'll just be another game. If you have any suggestions for me, something you think I might like or whatever, just let me know. The next video should come out pretty much before the Steam Christmas sale, and hopefully that game, as well as basically everything else I've talked about, will be on sale during that sale. So join me for the next video where I'll be talking about a game that, and this shouldn't really surprise anyone, is another top-down shooter game. I feel like that's almost becoming my shtick at this point. Maybe I'll just be the top-down twist-twin-stick shooter guy? I don't know. There's probably better guys than that.